Are you feeling torn between homeschooling your kids and keeping your family's income? Or maybe you're wondering how to guide your child's learning without having all the answers? If that sounds like you, you are definitely in the right place. Welcome to the Ultimate Homeschool Community Podcast, where homeschool dreams really meet real-world support. I'm Tiffany Hernandez, here to help you connect with the tools, community, and business strategies to homeschool confidently and keep your family's income strong. If you're ready to lead, learn, and launch, let's get started. Welcome back to the Ultimate Homeschool Community Podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Hernandez. Today we have a very special guest all the way from Florida, and we're super excited to have her here, Iman with Kind Academy, and we are so excited to welcome you. Thanks so much for joining.
You are very welcome. I'm so glad to be here. I see you all over the place. So I was like, let me see if I can get in. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So you have built an empire, and I'm super excited to have you share about the movement of microschooling, where you came from, because I know you're also a homeschooler, which is all in support alternative education in general. Can you share a little bit of your story, how you came up with Kind Academy, really like what prompted you to go down that route?
Yeah, great question. Thank you so much for asking. So my son is really the key to all of this. I say it all the time. By the time he was 2, like I would try to do some things with him that involved a teacher-led thing, and he was not having it. Like anything where I had to drop him off, he really wasn't having it. And I was like, okay, he'll grow out of it. And then by the time he was 4, we had something called VPK, which is voluntary pre-K in Florida. And I was like, okay, well, now I can go back to work and he can go to school. And I had my degree. I had just gotten my master's in school counseling, and I became a special education specialist as well as a school counselor. And he was going to voluntary pre-K. And within very, very quickly, I noticed that on the inside, it was horrible what was happening to teachers and what was happening to kids. And then also for him, he was crying every single day and he was not getting through it. And he was 4 and he was like, I just can't do this. And there was one particular moment that he was like, I feel like I'm dying when I go there. At 4 to say that, I was like, okay, that's it for me. That's it for us. And I think by May, I was like, I'm not renewing my contract. And then we homeschooled, and it was just like a whole new world for us. We started recognizing that homeschoolers really were doing education the way that I loved the way education was being. And he loved that. We were outside, we were in, and slowly people started saying I met a lot of teachers, and there was a group of teachers that actually ran this amazing homeschool community. And but what happened was a lot of families also needed, especially mothers, needed some time to also do the things that they needed to do. And I started saying, well, why don't you drop them off? Like, why don't we have a drop off? And at this point, I had already had a nature co-op, which was just like a caregiver and me program for moms who wanted to get messy and play. And I was like, well, let me do a 2-day drop off so that these parents can have some time to kind of like go shopping without their littles or do whatever I had a lot of entrepreneurs. So that started the 2-day program, and it just kind of grew from and just slowly people started, especially by 2020, people started saying, oh my gosh, look at what this person's doing in South Florida. And I was kind of like the key person that people would like call when they were starting a school. And 2020 hit and we had to go online, and that made us international. And now this is where we are. So that's kind of the story behind it, but it's really all his fault. I say to him also. He's now 14. He's in 9th grade now. And it's just, he started school last week, and it's great, but it's a journey. It's been a journey. Oh, I think I lost you in sound. You're muted.
Leave it to technical difficulties. I love the fact that you leaned in to what your son needed and was really able to connect with that and fill a need. Homeschool does do things differently. I also run a nature program, and people flock to that. I will say that those who are looking to start something and maybe don't have the funds for a building, like just go to the park. It is really
all the time. I say it all the time. Yep. I say that all like, don't let the building stop you. We just got our first building 3 years ago, maybe I think 4 years ago we got our first. But even then, like we're still out in the community and still doing things, because there's such a fun part of it. Today we do park day still, because it's just who we were. But yeah, you can totally start like that. You don't need money. You don't need, you know what I mean, anything super fancy. And sometimes I feel restricted by the building. And buildings are expensive. Yeah.
Yes. Let's talk about that. Buildings are expensive, a lot of overhead. There is a lot of restriction that I feel like we don't have because we are at the park or we're at the local national
library,
whatever. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. There are some places that are like, no, you can't have a legitimate business operating out of here. So you just have to be mindful, of course. But what would you say
absolutely
there is a parent that might want to go down this route because sometimes it can be really scary to do. But you've made a system
Yeah.
for this. What would you say would be like your number one thing for them to get started doing?
I mean, I think that it's very mindset kind of thing. So watch things like this. I always followed as many people who were doing it, so I could kind of see how they were doing it or what kind of mindset they had. So I always say follow 5 people that are already doing the thing you want to do. Then read everything, watch everything, pay attention to everything that they do. But then also just I always say start off with a class. Start off with one class. Start off with one thing, so you're not feeling you have to do this whole 5-day program right away. Everyone feels like I need to start a school and I need to start it right now. I don't have anybody. I always bring up Tanya Kite, but she did exactly what we did. We started off as a little mommy and me group that grew into a 2-day drop off, that then grew into a virtual school, that then grew into a 5-day program. And the past decade, now people are like, oh my gosh, like your program just seems like so popular and everybody knows about it. I'm like, that's because we've been doing it for a decade, not because I just started it. But yeah, I would say just start small, start really, really small, because you can make really small mistakes. I made very small mistakes in the beginning that weren't huge mistakes.
Right.
Mistakes means expensive mistakes, and you don't want to make expensive mistakes. But yeah, start small. A class. If you love science, teach a science class. If you love math, teach a
Absolutely.
math class. You know what I mean? Like that's all. The homeschool community loves that kind of.
It doesn't have to be a whole, like you're saying, full day, 5-day program with
Right.
all the subjects and all the extracurriculars. I would even say too, like you're an a la carte option where you are just doing your favorite
Right.
things and see how that goes. And
Right.
the next thing that I'll say too is like, okay, so we have people that maybe are good at just one thing and they help doing rest. So we're not
Right.
saying build alone. What has been
Right.
your like build process and getting a team? Because I know that's another snag in
That
the
is
game
huge.
plan is how do
Yeah.
you get the people that want to actually accept your ways into your
Right.
culture and start going down that
Yeah.
path?
I That's such a wonderful question. Thank you so much. It's funny. My teacher, I don't know if you saw me like go that way. She just peeked in the door, and that's my Miss Marina. So shout out to Miss Marina. Shout out to my host. Honestly, most of the time, it was people who were in my program who came to my nature school program, and they were like, "Oh, I love this." Like Miss Gabby is amazing too. She always tells a story. She's like, she's a lawyer from Venezuela, and one day she's walking by with her one baby at that point. I don't think she had her second, and she sees us in the park, and she was like, her whole mind was just like exploded. We were like fairies. The kids had no shoes on. She was like, they were like these fairies, like just prancing in the park barefoot. And ever since then, she was like, I knew I had to be a part of that program. So a lot of people that already come to us already align. They've already seen what we do. Then I started going to parents, hey, like, I started looking for parents who were already just naturally helpful and just naturally so good with the kids. So it's like I didn't have to really train in the beginning, quite honestly, like at all. It was just they came in with the philosophy, and then I just showed them what I did, and it just came naturally to them. Um, that I think that's a big part of building your team. Is just start, and then slowly people come. And I remember crying, like, I don't have a team. I'm never going to be able to do this. And I went to a lot of trainings and things like that, like a lot of coaching, and they were like, it's okay, like they'll come. And I never believed it. And now I have a staff. You know what I mean? A staff. Now I have a team of 5 people at this location, a bunch of people. I've had 20 teachers online. You know what I mean? Like it just ends up kind of happening. And the more you do it, the more you believe in yourself, the more people believe in what your vision is too. Yeah.
So that comes all back to, I want to say, messaging and like putting the right
Right.
message out there and how crucial that
Yes.
is.
Yes.
We still see a lot of educators and micro schools like struggle to get out there because of how positioning themselves either online or in the community. And a lot of times it's not that they have a bad vision, it's that the messaging doesn't match their brand, it doesn't
Mm,
match their mission. And can you talk a little bit
mhm.
about that and like
Yeah.
how you navigated that element? Because I feel like that is a missing piece that a lot of
Yeah.
our educators miss.
I hear that a lot, and I'm like, I guess I miss it because, like, I don't know. For us, quite honestly, it was just always I was almost angry about something, and I saw something, and I was like, okay, this has to shift, this has to change. So I've been kind of like very active. So I think maybe pick the thing that you're incredibly passionate about, and then go from there. I think that's where your mission is. I like, what do you want to change in
Yes.
the world? And that's
Yes.
generally how I say. And I mean, nowadays we have ChatGPT, so I think it's so much easier for you to say. But somebody asked me, and I just posted about this last night. I don't know if you saw that video. I did a reel. My daughter made me dance a bunch of times. We had such a good time. But I remember somebody asked me, actually, a brand strategist asked me, hey, like, how do you want your school to feel? And immediately I knew I wanted it to feel like sunshine and rainbows. I have on yellow pants today. I have on a bright orange. You know what I mean? Like, I want people to walk in and feel like it's kind of like tropical automatically. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to feel warmth and joy. So I think that's it. Like, just what do you want it to feel like? And then what are you trying to really change? And if you can stick to those two things, I think that no matter what, like, it'll get across to the people that need it, because people are looking for something. Yeah. Thank you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes so much sense, and it really simplifies it, because I feel like maybe there are some families that really just they want to branch into the homeschooling, they want to branch into alternative learning, but they're just like, I don't feel like I can be a part of this because I don't really know
Right.
what it's all about. And when
Right.
you evoke that sense of feeling for your audience or for your teachers because of what you are looking to portray, it makes
Mhm.
it makes all the difference. I will say, like, for our nature program, the biggest thing that I want people to feel in our program is to feel welcomed. And because I make
Right. Yeah.
a very element with the
Mhm.
new people coming in, they can sense it. We talk about it.
Right.
I make sure it's very
Mhm.
evident to all of the families. We want to make sure people feel welcome here. Do you feel welcome here? We don't want you to feel
Right.
like an outcast. We've experienced that all too often in other co-ops and other
Right.
groups, and they've made it
Right.
very difficult to engage. And so I'm constantly on the lookout. And the fact that those coming in can notice that, it makes such a difference in
Right.
the atmosphere, because you're not
Huge.
just building
Mhm.
the educational element, you're building the whole entire atmosphere. Can you share a little bit about you've got your sunshine and your rainbows, but like, how does that translate into your day to day with your students and your
Yeah.
educators and guiding them through?
Great question. And I want to kind of like piggyback off what you're saying. What you're talking about is like building community. So for us, it was always like
Absolutely.
we were, especially a decade ago, we're a secular program. So there's nothing, you know what I mean? There was no secular programs around that were not, and that's totally fine. But it was really hard to find a space that people who are not religious could go to. So, and they had not felt comfortable in some of the other spaces that weren't secular. So for them to come into our space and say, oh, wait, you know what I mean? Like you're saying hi. So the way that our day to day, for example, we even talk about it, like, and my teachers naturally do it, but I just, as reminders and as I systematize things, I'm like, okay, every single parent, like, get to know their name. When you do see them, talk to them by name. You know what I mean? Like, recall that thing that they talked about last week. Tell them something really awesome on pickup that their child did today. So always be kind of looking for those moments that parents are feeling like this is something that they are super comfortable going into. So that's kind of what the day to day is like. Once they come in, another thing, for example, I just walked in, all the kids were in my room. I'm not even supposed to really be here. Hopefully it'll be the learning lounge soon, but I came in and all the kids were in my room this morning, and I was like with the teacher, and I was like, what are y'all doing or whatever? And then I just saw them all hanging out and chilling together. I was like, okay, now we need to go take a picture, and now we need to like do a silly face and things like that. We're always like dancing or have music on, or you know what I mean? Like almost like it's like an organized chaos thing sometimes. Sometimes it is very, very quiet, but generally speaking, it's kind of like it's very, you can tell the kids are kind of enjoying and learning. You know what I mean? And that's what I
Right.
like to kind of see most of the time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's
The,
our
the
day to
kids
day.
have their moments, but
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I need to take a break because they got energy, and sometimes I'm like, okay. But generally speaking, like where our space is, especially we do academics for 2 hours a day, and that's pretty much it. And then everything else is really about the kids. Everything else is really about fun. How can we make this as enjoyable as possible for y'all? Really?
right.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's, of course, child centric in terms of how you've structured
Mhm,
your day, because so
mhm,
many times we hear about burnt out students, and it's like, why are we having a
mhm.
first grader burnt out when they're just getting started on their academic journey? Like, this is supposed
Right.
to, we should have a love for learning.
Absolutely.
How would you say parents and educators impact students to have that love for learning? Because a lot of times it's like, but I just don't understand how to do that if they're busy with screens, or they're addicted with like games, or whatever the case may be, they have their vices to stem out. How do you get them
Right.
engaged?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have 4 kids. I have 3 boys, and they're all gamers. So we definitely, and I think that's there's a part, I'm very techie too. So there's a part of me that's like I love the things that I see them building and doing online a lot of the times, and I know that that's where we're at. It's not even the future. We're not even saying the future anymore. I know where we're at right now, and I know jobs that are really not there. You know what I mean? Jobs that are here now are just not going to be there in 5 years. So I'm being very, very like kind of clear. But there is still something in my belief system is that they definitely still need a balance of what kind of like traditional ideas. Like, I still want you to have a good foundation in math. I still want you to be able to communicate written, verbally, all that stuff. Even if AI can do that for you, I still want you to have that, because I want you to have as many choices as possible. So that's why I kind of minimize it. But we do have an active, hey, there's no screen time, what we call tech time, until 2 p.m. So that's our kind of like, and they will interact in different ways. When they do have tech time, they interact by being on tech time together. But when they don't have tech time, they interact by playing Legos together or whatever it is. But knowing that they have a boundary is really great at making sure that they have balance. So that's what I say to parents who is like, they have the kids that are addicted. Instead of me taking away completely, even though sometimes we do it, what I call a detox, where it's like, hey, I've noticed that things are just getting a little bit more out of control than I understand. I know that what it's doing to your brains to some degree. And I want us to kind of come back as a family, and I want to be able to talk to you, because sometimes that device can get in the way of me communicating with you and reminding you of our value system. And this is with my own babies at home. So not necessarily at school, but I bet it probably is happening. If things get too crazy, then it's like, okay, let's pull back a little bit, because even for myself, sometimes I need to pull back a little bit. I have my own coach, and sometimes, let me pull, you know what I mean? Like you're kind of, all right, let's refocus on what our values are. And our big value is kindness to everybody, right? Joy and kindness. And if we're not being kind with each other, let's get back to basics and put everything away for a little while and kind of recalibrate. And usually that means putting the device away for a little while.
Right.
And then even if it's just a weekend, and now you're playing with rocks again, and now you're kind of back to who I knew you could be. And just remember, like, this is a privilege, and we want to make sure that we are utilizing this privilege in a way that is conducive to the world that we're trying to create. So that's my trick. It may not work for everybody, but it does for me. Yeah.
Right. I think I would say that I've seen that help in a lot of ways, especially doing the detox and like having boundaries around tech time, because even for adults, we can get addicted to screens. Kids see us doing that and like, well, you're on it, so you're being hypocritical, because then why can't I be on it? And so that is always a fight that it's going to be a challenging. But it's that we have to also show them the way, while also telling them like, okay, this might be how it is for you right now. Eventually, you're going to be in charge of your own time 100%. So how are you going to manage yourself? And so it's like, okay, giving them the opportunity to manage their time and know, okay, hey, here's the boundaries. Are you going to be able to keep those up on your own? Or what's your value system going to be, right? Can you talk about the value system? Because I really love that element that we start early sharing about those values, and not just so much rules, like values instead of rules. Because I feel like a lot of times we get caught up in that authoritarian, like, these are the rules and this is what I said and what I say, instead of like, these are the values that we're operating from. Can you share how that translates?
Yeah. So absolutely. So our values at school are the same at home. And we talk about it a lot, and basically it's 3 values that we have. It's kind to self, kind to each other, and kind to the world. So kind to self really means like, if you're not happy with yourself, then everything that comes out is going to be yucky. And I know that because like I have a lot of kids, and when they're feeling crappy, everybody hears that they're feeling crappy. And I'm like, what's going on inside your head right now? So we do start with affirmations. We start with meditation. We start with breathing exercises. You know what I mean? We're trying to teach them how to be kind to themselves, because I know when you have that negative voice in your head, then negative comes out, right? So we really work with them and try to help them through that kind to self, kind to each other. So that's conflict resolution. Hey, can you say that a little bit nicer to him? Hey, he didn't like that. Can you please can you please tell her that you didn't like that? You know what I mean? And things like that, kind to each other. And then kind to the world. Like my kids, we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just littered. You know what I mean? Like we really, and animals, like we really see them in a way of like, we're all a part of this earth community, and trying to make sure that we are realistic about that. So that's really, I think, valuable. If I notice that they're not being kind to each other, that's a big one. Like if I notice that we're not, then we have to figure out, because that's a huge part of our value system. And that's just something emotional intelligence wise. I have 3 boys. I say that too. Like I really need them to grow up with emotional intelligence so that they can really be active, productive. You know what I mean? Like kind people, of course, my girl too, but my boys, like I really want to make sure that they really have that language, just because traditionally it's been something that has not been like, I'm like, y'all can cry. Like we can be vulnerable with each other. You know what I mean? Like, please cry. Please tell me what's going on. You don't have to hold it all in, things like that. So be kind to yourself.
It's important for them to, that we're not just valuing external, that we value internal, because I think a lot of the structure of where we're at in society doesn't maybe portray that. starting to come out,
Right.
but it's maybe
Right.
not getting portrayed as much even in classrooms. And there's a lot
Right.
of regulations. Speaking of
Right.
regulations, within microschooling, I know that
Mm-hmm.
regulations are unfortunately coming. What have you
Mm.
seen? What have you coming down the pipeline for like a facility like you run versus something like more of a co-op or of an outdoor program? Because I feel like
I think it
there's still
really,
some
yeah.
areas.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on like where you live, and I think it's always going to be very. I know my blue states. I say my blue states, my red, my. I think the red states are going to probably allow this for a long time, to be a little less regulated. I blue states are always going to be much
More.
school choice in the way that school choice works. I feel like short term things are going to be a little bit more laid back. I think long term things are going to start being attached to money. I think that's just the natural way that these things happen. So I think when I teach people how to start microschools, which is something that I do, I'm always like, have another income stream, have another, you know what I mean? Like, but just be prepared. Like that money is great, you know what I mean? But even ESAs and things like that, just understand like slowly things are always, that's just the way that it goes. It's just the cycle of it. It's just the nature of it. So just not completely depending on any type of outside funding,
Right.
not as we saw this year, it became much more challenging to access certain funding, and people and nonprofits lost a lot of funding based off of things that were regulated that they never would have expected. So that's the kind of conversations that I have with people. So a lot of my people have two businesses, you know what I mean, instead of one. And I know it's a lot, it's very, very hard, but it leaves them in a position because even somebody I had was like, well, Medicaid just got cut, but I'm so glad because I see the ESAs now. So that's something that has been somewhat having those conversations with people. I'm a realist, and I see that kind of like a mile away. And I'm like,
Yes.
I think we'll be okay for a while. Yeah, I've been saying I think we'll be okay for a while, but I've been
You never
prepared
know.
for it since,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been prepared for a while. And that's why I teach people like this is great. I think all of this is great, but like you're a CEO at this point. Like when you're running a business, I need you to be in a business mindset. Like you really need to understand that everything is not promised to some degree tomorrow, and you just have to be in a mindset to what I call pivot. Like COVID shut us down, and most people were like, "Oh my gosh, like we're just gonna stop doing everything." And I was like, "I'm finding something out." And I got on OutSchool, and my first month we made $3, and then after that, it was just like it was crazy. Like financially, it just exploded. And a lot of people would give up at that point and say, I just can't do this. And I was like, I'm just going to keep going because I have a feeling this is going to work. So you have to be ready to pivot, and you have to really, really, really believe in yourself. And anything outside that's happening really won't matter, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, you're not
I,
wrong. Not wrong at all. Um, Well,
yeah.
I've really enjoyed being able to chat with you, and I know we're running out of time. I would just say, what would be like the wise mindset? What would you say as a bit of advice to somebody coming in to do for for themselves and being creating something that's unsuccessful?
Mindset is everything. I always go back to mindset. Read the
Yeah.
books. I have so many books that I always talk about. Jump by Steve Harvey was one of my favorite books. You Are a Badass is another book. I don't know if this is Christian, I'm so sorry. But
It's
by
okay.
Jen Sincero, that's one of my favorite. That's title, but it's a really, really good. The Richest Man in Babylon really helped me with my money mindset and just like getting comfortable with like being okay with this, with funding the vision, or making sure that the vision is, understand that when you get into it, what's your goal? Is it 1 year or is it 10 years? And if it's 1 year, then you can play around. If you're thinking legacy and I'm thinking like my kids are going to be doing this later on and running this business, then there's a lot of decisions I have to make today. So that's a lot where the CEO mindset for me comes in. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So share with
Yeah.
us real quick, just about how your program works and where people can find you if they want to find out more information from you.
Sure, sure. So I teach people how to start their own microschools with something called Launch Your Kind. That's been around for a long time. At this point, we've launched or started over 50 schools using our philosophy and framework. That is at our website. Just click on Start a Microschool, and you can go through the whole process. And then I have something else for people because now I've been teaching people how to do that for about 5 years. Now we have something else called Scale, which just teaches people kind of how to get into that CEO mindset and how to really start legacy planning for. I'm like trying to teach people how to get to their retirement funding because most of my microschool founders, of course, don't have retirement funding. So starting to think about that and building something that's going to last long after they're gone. So yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. Socials, where
All
can they find
right.
you?
Everywhere. I'm everywhere. We're on Instagram, kind_academy. TikTok is one of my favorite places. Facebook is probably best under my name, honestly. Like that's where I post a lot of content. Iman Alleyne. And my website, imanalleyne.com, is another place. And that's where you can actually find my scale program under imanalleyne.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mom, for coming on and sharing some words of
You're
wisdom. It's
welcome,
been such a
Tiffany.
pleasure.
Thank me.
Absolutely.
It
We'll
was
put all
perfect.
the
Thank you so
information.
much.
Yes, we'll put all the information in
Yay.
the show notes below, y'all. We'll see you next time. Happy homeschooling.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me on the Ultimate Homeschool Community Podcast. Before you go, though, don't miss out. Check those show notes down below so you can get those exclusive freebies and helpful resources and some practical tips that we've been sharing to support your homeschool journey. If you found value in today's episode, which I'm sure you have, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, share it with another parent who needs it. You know, the more reviews and comments that we get, the more parents we can reach with the support they need. And so your next step towards confident homeschooling is literally just a click away. Just check below. So just check out those notes and we'll see you next time.